Hey everyone, my name is AirRocker001, and I've had my YouTube account for a pretty long time now, but I was never able to completely use it to its fullest extent. And actually, what I wanted to do with it was create sort of a rock art channel, but that sort of died and failed because I was always busy doing other stuff like fencing and stuff. But I actually found a purpose, and I think that I'm going to actually discuss about my condition called Asperger syndrome. Asperger syndrome is a high functioning form of autism which causes people or sufferers to have low social skills, unable to understand body cues, body language, tones and voice, and facial expressions. They themselves have difficulty expressing themselves and feelings and emotions, unlike most people who usually take it for granted. I, for one, am a sufferer, so I honestly, it's just what it is. So I'm probably gonna start talking about my condition and how I experience it, and explain it to people who may have just been diagnosed or need more consoling on the fact that they have this condition now, or they may even suspect it. I mean, there are literally thousands of people who think they have Asperger's, but it's never been diagnosed. Actually, if you go on online forums, you find that a lot of people with Asperger's aren't even diagnosed until they're 25, 30, sometimes even late as their 50s. I know this because I've been in forums where you you look at these people and it's like, when were you diagnosed? And I'm like, I'm 54 years old and I've been just diagnosed and I've had it all my life and everything makes sense. My personal story on Asperger's, I started out quite normal as a kid. I used to have hard difficulty. I would have a hard difficulty with memorizing things. I was really smart, which is tends to be a there tends to be a higher intelligence among Asperger's than above average than versus the average kid. So I scored really high on my IQ test, and the thing was is that I had short-term memory. I went to my parents brought me to a behavioralist specialist back in probably 2002 or 2001 when I was in second and third grade, and they told me that I had a high IQ but I had short-term memory, and that I only memorized, I think, over 1/5, I think, of what they said in the class, and that was finally the smoking gun. So they diagnosed me with attention deficit disorders, and basically I took Ritalin and later Strattera for the next 7 years to combat the effects of short-term memory and just the forgetfulness in general. It did help me. So to say that I didn't have ADD would probably be wrong, but new studies show actually that people can outgrow their ADD and ADHD because it's just the way the brain forms at birth, and then as you grow older it sort of dissipates or whatever. Anyway, eventually I stopped taking Strattera, which ended in about the first year of high school. After that, I went off the pill. I noticed some differences, like I started talking to people because Strattera actually suppressed your emotions, in my opinion, and my personality. And in some point in that year, my personality just blossomed, and I became a lot more lighthearted. I laughed a lot more. I was less serious, and for the first time in my life, it was actually a little easier to make friends. But actually, making friends has been always hard for me, even before I had been diagnosed with Asperger's and ADD. So what happened was my parents told me one day, my dad actually said, Ariana, we think that you actually have Asperger's syndrome, which is actually a form of autism. And I immediately was like, what? No, I don't have autism. I'm too normal. But then I thought, and I actually looked it up online, that many of my symptoms are actually behavior of people who have Asperger's. And I actually started to think, yeah, I always had a hard time talking with people, or yeah, I don't get their emotions. And you slowly start to realize that, yeah, this is probably what I am. So in sophomore year, like February or March, I went down to a neurological, I forget the actual thing. Shoot. I'll probably have to hold it off for my next video. She was some kind of psychiatrist, I think, but she specialized in children's disorders, children's mental disorders, something like that. And I told her, she had a paper, and she told me, do you have this, this, and this? What do you feel like when you're in a conversation? And I told her how I felt, and oftentimes she would go, okay, well, did you feel this certain way? And most times I'd answer yes, because what she was deducing was the fact that I actually had Asperger's. And at the end of the session, she didn't say anything. She told me to go outside into the waiting center, and she told me to call my dad in. And so I called my dad in, and about 10 minutes later, he came out and he said, Ariana, you have Asperger's syndrome. And I thought, okay, well, cool. I actually was not cool. I actually did not like the fact that I was now considered to be autistic, because most people, when they think of autism, they think of somebody who's strapped in a chair, can't talk, can't eat for themselves, or if they were able, they had aides with them constantly, and they did these weird things in class and stuff like that. But the autism spectrum is a very wide a wide variety of different types of autism. I mean, you have the very severe kinds where people are strapped into a chair and they can't move. And then there's a type like autism, Asperger's, which is a very high functioning form of autism, which is what I have. And although along the same spectrum, there seems to lie difficulty of speaking to people and body movements and stuff like that. I'm lucky that I have like the less severe end. I actually have probably would be considered a mild form of autism, but it's enough to be noticeable in any circle of people. Anyway, back to my story. When I was diagnosed, I actually wanted to ignore the fact that I actually had autism and Asperger's. It kind of frightened me because I thought people would think of me differently. But I always had the option of not telling them. But even then, people already knew that I was a little off. I mean, I was always smart. I was a teacher's pet. I would tell people weird facts, and I still do. I mean, parents and family members get it, but other people that you know in school, they don't always get it unless they know you that well. So I, for a while there, was sort of in denial. I told my parents, don't think of me as handicapped or autistic. Just pretend it's just nothing a part of me. And it's weird because I thought that the day they diagnosed me, everything would be better. And in a way, things sort of got worse because as I grew up through my adolescence, from 15 onwards, up until now, my symptoms of Asperger's have actually manifested themselves more and more, and among them, I probably have the anger issues. I tend to have the tantrums and lash out. I tend to have that rigid order of thinking where I have to have things happen in a certain way, because if they don't, I just lose it. It's sort of the whole world is super complicated, and the only way I can control it if I make a strict schedule and I follow that schedule every day, right down to the details, including, the food. My sandwich has to have 2 slices of white bread, because if it does not have 2 slices of white bread, I have a meltdown. And wow, it will not be understood to the common person because it's just so strict, and it's just done in a certain way that it's sort of hard to explain. It's like, even if it starts to rain outside and you weren't planning anything particular, but you still wanted it to be sunny, you're still gonna get somewhat irked, but I guess that wasn't the best example. I mean, who gets irked? I mean, who wouldn't get irked if it started raining outside? So that's basically my story. I will be posting future videos in the future about my different symptoms and how they vary, and I'll probably tell personal stories about myself, and I might even go into so far my person, which I start to express things that you just won't tell to everybody, because I think that it's important that people with Asperger's who are just getting familiarized actually know what it's like, or this could be me. And actually I want to make a bit of a center for people with Asperger's who need help or consolation and stuff like that. So I will be posting more videos. If you have any questions or comments, just mail me, either email me, which I'll be putting my email link in my profile and down here, and or you can just send me a YouTube message or something like that. Alright, I hope to see you.